Profits today. Looking forward to the show. Real excited about my guest that we are sharing with you today. And Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global. My guest has spent more than 20 years in private equity and a bunch of private equity experience, founded multiple $500 million alternative firms, and serves on the board of numerous cannabis companies. His private equity firm focuses on investing in the legalized cannabis industry. And my guest today is Mr. Matt Hawkins, and Matt is the founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. Matt, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm doing awesome. I'm really glad that you're here today, and want to really talk about the money side of the cannabis business a little bit, and I'm really excited about that. So, Matt, a couple years ago, when you formed Entourage, were you part of Cresco Capital Partners, which was formerly the name? What happened there? What transpired that you wanted to really do something different?
Well, there was nothing different about it. We were just getting tired of being confused with Cresco Labs, as were they.
Okay, all right.
It's pretty fun. It's actually a funny story. We were, we founded the firm in 2014. Yeah, Cresco Labs was right around the same time, and Cresco is just Latin for grow. And so we both, thought Charlie and I thought we were both clever, and turns out we both picked the same name. we have a good laugh about it, and we actually, Charlie and I talked, and they have a brand. Our brand is on track record, and we really just it got to the point where both he and I were getting calls like, "Okay, so are you all affiliated?" We're like, "No,
yeah,
we're not."
So you made the move, changed the name, and Entourage Effect Capital. I love that name. How did you come up with it?
Well, it's another interesting story. We hired an ad agency to kind of help us, formulate a new name. And one of my partners, Andy Sterner, had bought the name Entourage Effect Capital, the domain name, and secured the rights to it and everything. And the whole team was kind of like, I don't know, it sounds kind of hokey. It sounds like too much into cannabis, but we couldn't come up with anything else. And finally it started growing on all of us. And, and so we decided to give it a shot, and we're really happy with it.
No, that's awesome. That's great. Now you're living in the DFW area, and did you go to UT in Austin? You go to UT Austin?
I did.
Yeah.
Took them orange. Yeah.
Are you a wonderful Texan? Are you a Texan?
I am. I grew up in Dallas. Was actually born in Austin. Yeah. But our, my partners live in Fort Lauderdale, so that's where we built out the team. And so we've got our team of 8 people in an office over there, and so I'm there a lot. And plus I'm on the road a lot with raising money and trying to put some deals together.
Yeah. Well, we got that in common. I'm living in Austin now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And I was hoping you said you were Texan. Yeah. But no, that's great. So your team's in Fort Lauderdale, and there's a lot of cannabis in that area.
Florida's a big medicinal state. Yeah. And there's no doubt about it. It's I think it's very interesting because it's a, pretty conservative state, but it's got one of the most robust medicinal programs in the nation. So it just kind of shows you another reason why we feel like cannabis is bipartisan, and it's both sides of the aisle need to get together and figure out a way to make this legal across the nation.
No doubt. Absolutely. No doubt. Now, Matt, you started out in real estate investments, and that was a journey for you. And how did you get into the cannabis? How did you get to cannabis? Yeah.
So actually, prior to my real estate ventures, I kind of cut my teeth just in traditional private equity.
Okay.
And so that was really my comfort zone. Okay. And so, but I did during the downturn, I had raised a private lending fund where we ended up doing a lot of loans for broken real estate deals.
Mm-hmm.
But that also included some multifamily, and we ended up buying a couple portfolios of multifamily assets.
Mm-hmm.
And built up that platform, and then we sold that in 2014. And since I had raised a private debt fund before, I kind of turned that deal spigot back on.
Okay.
And obviously in 14, shortly after Colorado, Oregon, the state of Washington had all gone recreational legal. And I knew nothing about cannabis at the time other than, I'd used it in college, but that's
right.
about it. And so what I started seeing, I was getting deals from warehouse owners in Denver that were looking to refinance their mortgages out of commercial debt to get into private debt, which would then give them the ability to lease their facilities to growers. Because with a commercial mortgage, having a federally illegal tenant would violate multiple covenants. And so they were willing to pay, 12 to 14% yields. I thought that was very interesting, and actually closed on a loan. But Vern, I call it my luck and timing moment, because that's when I realized that, the yields would likely dry up. But if I could figure out how to underwrite the cannabis assets themselves and raise some money around it, that would really be my comfort zone anyway. So I just needed to kind of get comfortable with the federal illegality, which back in 14 was a totally different world than today. I mean, I was
totally,
I was up a couple of nights thinking there's a chance I'd go to jail. So,
Colorado was just coming online. That was tough. Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And that was the genesis of Fund One. We raised, it wasn't a big fund, but it was about 10 million plus another, with another partnership, we had another 10 million of co-invest, and it's been a great run. Now we're on Fund Three.
Oh, that's great. That's a hell of a story. So you kind of found yourself in the cannabis arena.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And that was through the real estate originally, but then, if not for the we had a very friendly borrower who kind of gave me access to the tenant, and all of a sudden the tenant and his whole ecosystem of cannabis companies, they all thought I was new money. Well, hell, I didn't have two dimes to rub together in cannabis back then, so I had to go out and raise it.
Oh, that's great. Give us kind of the state of the union about investing in the cannabis market. What's going on? Because my sense is that some of these really good companies are undervalued. Talk to us about that.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, we are full square in the middle of a bear market in cannabis.
Yeah.
And that's primarily impacting the public companies. But valuations have come down in private companies as well. But that gives us a tremendous buying opportunity to make investments in good companies. And let's face it, I mean, we've kind of grown up as a firm, and where we invest in the, from a size and a stage standpoint, we've matured along with the industry. So Fund One was very, crazy early stage, basically angel investing. Fund Two was more, Series A, a little bit later stage, but now Fund Three is growth equity, and we're writing much bigger checks. So it's it's a $150 million fund. We've raised about, almost half of that. And we've made 7 investments already, but they're all, for the most part, short of a carve out for some early stage deals through our partnership with Arcview. But everything else is later stage. And what we're trying to do is build scale with these companies, regardless of what they're really worth right now.
Right.
Because the reality is, if we build scale and make these companies, big and attractive, when this thing becomes quasi-legal, institutional capital comes in the game, then the NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange open, where you get big pharma, tobacco, alcohol, CPG companies, the multiples are going to skyrocket. And so we want to be in a position with our companies to be able to hand these to a silver platter to the larger check writers that can take the industry to the next level. Because make no mistake about it, there is a dearth of capital out there, and we need we need fresh funds to come in to take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to take a quick break, Matt. And when we come back, I really want you to talk to us about what these companies need to do to take the next step in their evolution of being really important in the space and being valuable in the space and moving forward. So we really want to talk to you about that. Hey, I'm Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is brought to you by Prophets Global. My guest today is Matt Hawkins. He is the founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. We'll be right back. Welcome to Plant Profits, everyone. I am your host, Vern Davis, and Plant Profits is brought to you by Prophets Global. My guest today is Mr. Matt Hawkins, and Matt is the founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. And Matt, we were discussing specifically companies in the cannabis arena, which you are funding and writing checks for in your third fund. Congratulations on that. And you're funding companies and getting them down the road further each time you open a fund. And I think that's awesome. What are some of the gaps or some of the opportunities you see that these companies need and that really helps you understand who you should invest in?
Well, it's been consistent from day one until now. We are, we're backing exceptional management teams, and the truth of the matter is that it's gotten easier because there are more talented professionals that are entering the space now than ever before. I'll give you an example. We just, or the majority, we're one of the largest shareholders of Harborside, which is soon to be State House Holdings in California, one of the largest single state operators in California. We through the 4-way merger of Harborside, Loudpack, Urban Leaf, and Sublime. And we hired a guy by the name of Ed Schmaltz to be our CEO. And Ed is a real guy. I mean, he comes from Goldman background. He was COO of Patagonia, CEO what's wrong with me? Of Red Envelope, and then also the CEO of FAO Schwartz. And so that's a pedigree that hasn't been in the industry very often, but now it's pretty commonplace. And so backing managers like that is a big deal for us, and it just makes our job easier.
Yeah, the talent is, so I'm in the talent business and at Prophets Global, and the talent area is what I agree with you. It is making it easier for me, the lay investor or someone else, the lay investor in the industry, to look at the company like you would look at any other company that you would invest in. Yeah. Right. And you're looking for these leadership teams, you're looking at board of directors, and you're really trying to understand if these people have what it takes to take this thing to the next level. And happily I report that more and more companies are getting there. Right. They're finding that. So now, it's quite interesting. You just mentioned the gentleman that you put into the Harborside investment. That is a person with just huge capital markets experience. And now, so I'm seeing a couple things, Matt. I'm seeing that where you go with the huge capital markets experience, and I'm also seeing that where you go with the standard consumer products, big company, background experience, maybe a little less on the capital markets, but really understand how to run a business that produces and makes things. How do you see that?
Well, it's a very good statement, because in our search process for that CEO, we saw candidates that you just described. And it really became, it made it a hard decision. There were a lot of talent. And so that only gives me comfort that the industry is even on more solid footing with, excellent management teams taking over the companies that, that want to take that next step. And we met a whole lot of people along the way that we could plug in potentially to some of our other investments. So we're really excited about that.
No, that's great. I totally get that for sure. It's quite interesting also that when I look at some of the cannabis companies is branding, right? So I really want to talk about that and creating value through brands. Do you believe that's the journey of the cannabis company, or is it going to be different?
I think it depends on which sector you're in.
Yeah.
Branding is obviously very, very important, but let's face it, until we have a more traditional interstate commerce play, it makes it really, really hard. There's really, in my opinion, one nationwide brand, and that's cookies. And they've done a great job of unlocking that potential, and will continue to unlock it going forward. But short of that, just licensing your products to other license holders in different states, it's not that easy.
No.
And, I think it's easier to build a brand, in the West and go East versus the East and go West. And until it becomes a true interstate commerce play, we're going to have a shortage of brands, in my opinion.
Okay, I think that's a fair point.
Nationwide brands is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So, do you believe that the different states have brands that can be identified as related to that state?
Oh, absolutely. Just look at. I think that there's brands that haven't gone anywhere except for one, maybe two states. So it's and we've got brands in our portfolio that have tried to do that and have maybe succeeded in one or two states but failed in another. Right. It's pretty interesting how it all works that way.
Yeah. It is. My observation, Matt, is that it appears to me that there's still just a lot of education need to happen by these companies with consumers about what they're actually creating for them and the experiences that they're creating for them, and to the level of other consumer related products or other farmer related products where you have a really solid level of expectation of what's going to happen when you eat something, take something, smoke something, drink something, however you consume it. I think that's really really important.
I couldn't agree more. Agree more. Education is going to be in all aspects of the industry. Education is important, and so I think you're spot on there.
Yeah, Matt, how do the non-touching companies in that entire environment, right? To me, that's like another world in the same world, right? In the same space. Is that thriving now? Is that a place you make investments? How do you look at that?
Yeah. No, we invest both in plant touching and non-plant touching companies. And really, if you think about it, the non-plant touching companies in some cases have an advantage because they can cross state lines.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it any easier. It's still, the cannabis industry is still a difficult one to succeed in. And so, like Fund 3 has we probably have one of the most unique ancillary investments in our portfolio now than anyone, and that is, a lot of people have invested in it, but are really excited about Hound Labs, which is really the only commercialized breathalyzer measuring THC content in your body at that particular moment that's on the market right now.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And you talk about impairment, and that's going to be a measure in detecting what that might be. I mean, that's a huge subject that really is just scratching the surface. But when we get closer to legalization, and certainly when there's a legalization event, that's going to be a big, big thing. And so we're pretty excited about the prospects of that deal.
That's exciting. That is absolutely exciting, and I think that's a huge opportunity. And those companies can also go public in the U.S.
That's right.
Which is could be helpful to them and what they're trying to get accomplished. Hey, I'm Vern Davis, and I'm your host of Plant Profits. Thank you all for joining us here. We're going to take a quick break. My guest today is Matt Hawkins, founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to Plant Profits. Thank you all for joining us here today on the show. Our guest today has been and is Matt Hawkins, founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. Hey, Matt, look, good conversation. We'd love to get your view of what's happening from our government perspective and the effect that it's having on the industry. It seems like we tend to set timelines for things, and they never happen on time.
Yeah, I've kind of got to the point where I just don't prognosticate this anymore because it's impossible to do it. But I will tell you this: I think we're at a tipping point, and the reason I say that is that. With New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut all going recreational adult use legal, I mean, you're talking about, really, our fair state of Texas is the only real populous state in the nation that doesn't have even a thriving medical program.
Right.
So
it's not even decriminalized here. Right.
No. But setting that issue aside for a second, I think that at a national level, it's becoming so bipartisan, and you're also getting, finally getting big banks, they're starting to, voice their opinion on wanting the Safe Banking Act to pass. Mm-hmm. So I think that the Safe Banking Act has a chance of passing sometime, in early 2023. And I think and I think in addition to that, you've got, maybe it's 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 years, but you've got, there's 3 bills that are out there, 2 from Democrats and 1 from a Republican on some type of legalization. Yeah. The MORE Act and the Schumer bill are on the Democratic side, and then Nancy Mace's bill on the Republican side. And if we can just be smart about wanting, I think we all want social equity and we all want legalization, but if we can figure out how to separate the two and do them at the same time, I think it could get done. But and I think it's getting closer. I mean, it's the court of public opinion, Vern. I mean, we've got almost 70% of Americans that want it. Not to mention, I can't remember the stat, I think it's 2/3 of Americans live in a legalized state now. So, I mean, come on. It's a matter of listening to your constituents.
Well, that makes so much sense, but government tend not to.
Doesn't make sense.
Right. I mean, everything you said is just, okay, how could it not be?
It's common sense. I listened to it's amazing because, Bill Maher, who, not to get too political, but he was on Joe Rogan the other day, and I listened to a snippet of it. And these are 2, pretty polarizing, left, right, but they couldn't agree more. They were all commonsensical things they were talking about.
Right.
And it all made sense. And so if we could just get back to that, not just with cannabis, but everything, this may be all right.
So do you think banking is going to go first?
I think so.
You think those are separate? You think that's separate issues?
I do. Yeah. I do. I think it's an easier thing to do. I think they're getting more traction from that. It's also a safety issue. I think Congress recognizes that. We'll see. But hey, I've been wrong so many times on this. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it seems to make sense, but again, making sense is the enemy of this. Let's talk a little bit more about Entourage and what you guys talk to us about your vision of what you guys are trying to do and how you want to implant your name into this cannabis industry.
Well, hopefully we've done that in a big way. We've made 60 investments or so thus far, and out of our 3 funds and a bunch of special purpose entities. We still have a little work to do to finish out the raise on our third fund, but I think that the timing is perfect because during our hold period, if you think about a fund's hold period, it's usually 5-7 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Fund 3 and even Fund 2 for that matter, I mean, it's right in the square, the middle of when we think something might happen at a federal level. And
that's right.
Bring all that capital that's going to come in, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be to the benefit of companies that, have been smart and invested their capital wisely and have grown and built scale. And we're just trying to enable our investments to be able to do that. And we get involved to the extent we need to. But ultimately, we're, like I said earlier, we're backing excellent management teams. And we think that we're in a position to, because of our track record and longevity in the industry, to get access to the best deals, which we, have shown we can do.
Yeah.
And drive returns for our investors. That's really all we're doing.
Yeah. You simple, but I'm sure it's not easy to execute.
Not quite that.
But you, to your point, we were talking about branding before. Entourage is a great brand in the whole ecosphere in cannabis. You guys have made some tremendous investments in some companies we all know the names of, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And I thank you for taking the time out of a busy day to do that, and look forward to continuing our conversations, Matt, over the future here, and seeing you at some of the places that we all go to for conventions and shows and those kinds of things. I'm sure I'll and we will run into each other.
Look forward to seeing you.
Absolutely. And so, look, everyone, thanks for joining us all on Plant Profits today. My guest today, as I said, is Mr. Matt Hawkins, and he is the founder and managing partner of Entourage Effect Capital. And would love for all of you to find this episode and other episodes of Plant Profits by going to cannabisradio.com or subscribe to the show through wherever you get your podcast outlets like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeart, everywhere you get your podcast, you can find Plant Profits. Go and download it. Follow Produce Global on LinkedIn, Instagram, social media. We're on all of those sites, and learn how we, through bringing great talent to our clients, that we're building companies and we're changing people's lives at ProtisGlobal.com, PROTIS global.com. Until next time, cheers.